Are new cars really faster than old cars? Because they take off faster, but old cars have better power. Sure, they burn more fuel, but I don't know if you ever seen like their engines are made out of steel. They're solid. Nowadays,
And the bodies were made a lot better too.
yeah, I mean, still don't get me wrong. They don't have crumple zones. If you hit it in the right way, it will crumple and it will hurt. But they were strong. I've seen muscle cars make a semi truck fully loaded down flip over from hitting the car because it would ramp up and
Yeah.
destroy. Sure, the muscle car side was smashed in, but it flipped over a semi truck. A car flipped over a semi. You do that with a modern car, ping! Oh, did I hit a speed bump? No, I don't know. But tell me, why would you pay like so? What the new Bugatti Veyron something Sport is a $10 million car. The rims are like 50 grand each. So tell me, for that money to have that much horsepower, I could spend about 100 grand to get a high performance engine, probably a V12
Yeah.
also, custom supports for a car, buy an older car, have all the parts shipped and all that for probably for less than 100 grand. But I can make it faster than a more modern car. Probably be unstable as hell, but like, why would I want to pay $10 million
Yeah.
and then pay for those parts?
That's a lot.
You can't do anything to them. 1,000 modifications you can do. Yeah, you'll see this. You'll see these old cars that look rusted and beat up, right? But then all of a sudden they have more power than the modern car. You know what we call those? Sleepers. Cause they,
Sleepers. I
yeah,
already knew
yeah,
it.
he
Let's
he knew it.
go.
They don't look like they're anything, but they're high performance. You'll see these cars like these old ones from like 1940s, 1950s that look bulky, and they have maybe 2,000 horsepower under the hood, and you'll never know until because the thing is they don't start it; they push it to the start line at the drag race, and then when it's like, oh, we're gonna, it's just got a nice old car, and you're like, okay, I'll bring like my Hellcat, and then you hear them start their car, and like, oh shit, you know. You feel the rumble in the ground. I mean, everyone wants a Hellcat. So guys, I don't want one. Like, why? I'm like, why do I want a car that's like 60 grand that has an engine that's been known to blow up really quickly?
Yeah, in my opinion, sleepers are pretty they're pretty ruthless.
I I own one of the I own one of the most high performance cars where I'm from.
Nice.
My old car has almost 6,000 horsepower. Why it's not recorded is because you can't drive it. Can't drive it because so the reason why is because it's super loud. It burns a lot of fuel, and it's not like to prove it's not to prove I'm better than anyone or anything. It was more for shits and giggles at that point. We had my uncle loves building old cars, and there was a lot of stuff lying around, right? So we took an Jaguar XJS V12 engine, shoved it in the car. It got a different transmission for it because it didn't work with the old one. And yeah, so a lot of people don't know this. Everyone's like, "Oh, Mercedes is the first car." It's like, you gotta go dig into history a little better. Mercedes was the first classified car for gas engine, but Oldsmobile was the first actual car. It was a wagon with a gunpowder engine, and Mercedes,
Yeah.
because a lot of companies do this, copied the engine design and made it fuel. And guess what? But Mercedes is not what they were credited, but Oldsmobile had a better plan at the time. You know all those big brands like Buick, General Motors, GMC, all that stuff? No, not Toyota. No, no, Buick. I'm telling you the brands that Oldsmobile created. So, so they thought it's funny, but you know all the racing industries, your rally racing, your normal racing, your drag racing, your off-road racing, your derby racing, stuff like that. Oldsmobile created all those industries. My car is a unique car. the only reason it can hold 6,000 horsepower, because when you have a lot of power, your car will twist, and that's how you snap your frames and stuff. This is why my car can do this. My car is an off-road version. It's a rare version of my car. So, you know the trophy truck is, right? Those, you know, those Chevy trucks with a good suspension that goes over those bumps really fast? Who do you think invented that vehicle? It's a Chevy, and it's a rally racing. My car did. Now, it's not as complex as that suspension, that because it was it's older, right? They didn't have all that stuff kind of figured out yet. But my car doesn't have a frame that's connected. It's got two subframes, front and back, and then it's got shocks and springs in the middle to keep it from twisting. That's why I could put a lot of horsepower in it, because it keeps it from twisting all the way, which is probably one of the most useful features in that car. It's also 3 inch higher than a normal car, and it's got all-wheel drive capability. It's not always all-wheel drive, it's four-wheel drive, so I can engage it. So when people are like, if someone tells you all-wheel drive and four-wheel drive mean the same thing, you can tell them they're dead wrong.
No.
All-wheel means you can't take it off. You're always, which is usually what those Mitsubishi, what are they? Lancers, I think. You can't ever take it out of four-wheel or all-wheel drive. So you're always using that because it uses more fuel, right? And maybe make your driving weird. My car's a rear-wheel drive when it's in two-wheel, and there's a lever, or like it's like a normal old vehicle. It's manual engagement, so no electronics. You just push the lever forward and engage it to your four-wheel drive diff, stuff like that. Because it's meant for off-roading, right? It's really cool.
Yeah.
It's pretty fast too. When we did a dyno for it, after having all the power in it, I've never seen anyone do this in my life. We chained it to the walls, the ground, stuff like that. Like, it was chained to stay on that dyno because it had a lot of power, and we were worried that if it launched, it would go through the wall. It could keep driving, right? Because it's a standard. So you put it in the gear, it's got that much power. It's gonna keep driving in that gear till it comes to a dead stop, or blows itself up. But we didn't want either one to happen. So it was good. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I'm just gonna put the original V8 in it when it comes time. But like, that's what I'm saying. Like, everyone wants a sport car. It's like, guys, you don't even know your history, do you? It's like, oh, I want a $10 billion car. It's like, guys. I don't care how much money you have. Why would you waste that much on a car that could be that can't even drive over a speed bump? Like where I live, a lot of potholes. You take that car on a pothole, you'll never have a fender flare in your life. Like, I see those people with those cars that are like an inch off the ground. It makes me sad. I saw a joke on Pinterest, and it wasn't even funny. It's like, oh, I think I'm dragging on a leaf. It's.
You know what? You know what makes me sad? You know what makes me sad? You know what makes me sad? Is
What?
people that like to squat their trucks or vans.
Oh, don't even talk about squatters,
all the way to
man.
the ground. All the way to the ground. I'm like,
No,
why?
squatting. You know what
I hate it. I hate squatting.
You know what else ruins a truck?
Just
Having
doesn't look right.
having a jacked up truck with those city tires, with the really thin rubber and those big rims.
Yeah.
What a waste of a truck. We call those pavement princesses here. They're useful. They're useless for, Well, they don't do anything. 'Cause I've had people say those are the best off-road tires ever. I'm like, guys, off-road tires have tread to get through the mud. Those have no tread because they're meant for the road, for the friction. You can't drive an off-road tire on the main road because now you have big teeth with gaps and it becomes unstable. A kid I met who had you're gonna hate that. He had a first-gen Cummins. I like first-gen vehicles. I'm a Chevy guy myself because of the history, but first-gen had the best vehicles of every kind. Ford made good vehicles then. Chevy made good vehicles. Dodge made good vehicles. They had great manufacturing. However, his truck was beat up, like everywhere. It was a disgrace. He had a straight pipe coming out through his box with no, like, it's straight up, and I don't like straight exhaust because what happens if it rains and that goes in and you create a vacuum? It's gonna suck it in your engine, and your engine's gonna get waterlocked, and you're not gonna be able to start the truck ever again. And diesels don't have more horsepower than a normal car because diesels are more for their RPMs and torque. it was rolling coal because he thought that was fun. He even put a tuner in to make it roll coal more. So he would start it up when it's cold and just rev the piss out of it and drive it, which is super bad for your truck. Super. I can't stress this enough. And these kids were like, "Oh, rolling coal is good." It's like, no, it's not. Diesels, believe it or not, diesels are more eco-friendly than cars because it's water. Because their diesels are water-based fuel. There's basically water in their more in their fuel, right? That's why it can freeze quicker. So diesels are actually, it's proven, they're better for the environment than normal gas cars. And it's crazy. Everyone thinks diesels are supposed to blow black smoke. You want to know what the color of the smoke is supposed to come out?
Mm.
Clear. It's supposed to be clear. Now, semis, when they shift the way the combustion, you see a little bit of black and then it goes back to clear, right? That happens. It's a big semi, big combustion engine, blah blah blah. But if you're seeing a normal truck that has no modifications, like 1,000 horsepower diesels, those will roll coal. They're supposed to. Once you hit over 1,000 horsepower in a diesel, they will roll coal on purpose because that's the way their engine is overrunning, which is normal. So if you have 1,000 horsepower diesel and it rolls coal, yeah, that happens. I'm sorry to tell you that that will just happen. There's nothing you can do about it. But um, yeah, I don't know. But like, yeah, don't like sports cars. Don't. Oh, also people like Teslas. I was speaking with no one's watching my stream and I'm working on a Tesla, but um uh everyone likes Teslas, but did you know Teslas are worse for the environment than any other vehicle in the world?
Mm.
What? You want to know how? Because lithium
Oh, not
batteries
sure.
to produce and decompose a lithium battery is super harmful to the environment and its stuff and all that. Not to mention, the stuff in Teslas have a lot of rare materials that are harder to find. So a lot of companies, because you know everyone wanted to go to the EV, right? Electric. Everyone's bringing back gas now for a reason. Also, don't mind my Tesla. I bought it at a junkyard and I'm gonna restore it. But that's yeah, they're worse. They're Teslas are worse for the environment. It's like, oh, but they don't make any emissions. No, they don't. But it's not the emissions that make it the environment bad. It's getting rid of metal cars, not Fords, because Fords are aluminum. They don't really decompose. I'm sorry, but old trucks, you let them sit, they'll rust, right? They'll rust and they'll go back in the earth. Technically, it's biodegradable. I mean, however, the fluids are little bad. They come from Earth, but we changed them so they're no longer perfectly supposed to go back into Earth. So also, I need a tool to get this rid of this. I need a power washer. Um,
Mm.
I need a car wash. Let's bring this thing to the car wash. Um,
Yes.
and yeah, so like, yeah, I know a lot about vehicles as you can imagine, as I'm telling you. Um,
Yeah.
what I like hybrids. Hybrids are a good combination. You have your fuel. So a good way to use a hybrid is you use your electronic side first, then you switch to your gas side. The reason is because now that gas side will charge that electric side, so then you have a third charge. So now you go 3 times as long instead of 2 times as long. Smart, right? So, yeah. Also, do you want me to explain how a combustion engine works? You guys ready to hear that monstrosity? I want to hear how you guys think a car works, real quick. How do you think a car works?
Well, okay, so of course you have the pistons and you have the belt and all that.
How does the
And
pistons move?
they use isn't it for like I don't know, pressurized air? I don't know, I don't remember. Oil.
Would would you like me to explain it to you?
Yeah, sure.
I'm gonna explain this slow, not because I think you guys are dumb or anything, because it's gonna be a lot of information I'm about to tell you. It's simpler than you think, but harder than you think. So, when you when you start your vehicle isn't automatically running, right? That's not how it works. When you start your vehicle, it takes your battery power, it goes to your starter. So your starter is connected to your transmission, which is it's right at your transmission and engine where it splits. What it does is when you turn that key, that ignition goes in, and in that starter there is a gear attached to I'm gonna say like a piston type of rod, and when you turn it, it goes outwards. It goes straight and starts turning. You have a flywheel in the on the back of your engine. So that starter will turn that flywheel, which is now going to spin your crankshaft, which is what it's connected to, which is what your pistons are connected to, right? So your pistons are in a cylinder and they're moving. So as it spins, they're all set to different parts on the crankshaft, so they're all so that it actually moves, right? So that now creates pressure, which will now allow all your fuel lines to suck pressure. This happens in an instant. Once you turn that key and it actually creates pressure, that's why your vehicle can start. But that's why, if you ever notice, your vehicle never starts on the first turn of your key. It'll have a quick, and then starts right away, right? Because now it needs to pressurize your system. So it sucks fuel into the fuel injectors, which will put fuel on the top of your pistons, because it's called the combustion chamber. So you got your engine block, and your engine block, you can see your pistons, right? But then you have your engine head, which goes over those, right? That is where the combustion chamber is. So you have your spark plugs, which are connected with power, right? And in an old system, it's a rotor that spins and a thing that activates it. The spark plug causes a spark plug. They're called a spark plug, right? They're plugs. They spark. You guys with me so far?
Yeah.
The fuel injectors will put fuel in, and it ignites. That's why it's combustion. So it makes a little explosion, which will push your piston down. This is how your engine works. Because once you start it, that starter doesn't keep spinning that flywheel, so your flywheel is no longer spinning. But when you activate that combustion chamber, now it's set, so now it's moving the pistons, right? So now it's pressurized, and this one's confusing. So now when you turn your key off, I think it's a kill switch, which usually goes to your computer, but in old vehicles, I think it just kills the system manually. Basically, chokes all the fuel, chokes out all the power system like that, and that's what kills your vehicle, right? Because now when you start
Yeah.
it, now your engine is combustion, right? It's got pressure, it's spinning. So your engine's running, but your engine doesn't make your car move. Your engine just makes everything run, right? I mean, if you ever noticed, if you leave your radio or lights on, your car will die if your car's not running because it drains the battery. When it's running, your alternator's spinning, it's keeping constant charge. Um, it's your transmission, obviously, that moves your car. Yeah, it's your transmission that moves your car, so automatic, you engage it. Automatic has a torque converter. It helps do its own gears. But a manual gear is a little complicated. So you have multiple. Say you have a 5-speed, you have like almost 5 different types of shafts or something like that, or maybe 3 with different types of gears. Depending on the transmission, you can either have 5 different shafts that's built in your transmission, or you can have one with different gears. It depends on who makes it. It can't tell you what's all inside of it. You'd have to crack it open. But you have your first gear, which is usually your it's just the normal rod, which is your slow speed. It's like a bicycle wheel. Your biggest gear is your slowest gear, right? Because it helps you. It's easier to drive forward, right? Like you guys ride a bicycle, right? You know what I mean? You have your big wheel, your big gear, and that's usually your first gear, and it's easier to go in, right? Easier to pedal off. Then you have your fifth gear, say, and it's small gear, but it's because it's less rotations, right? It's less rotations, which makes you faster. That's what makes you faster. If you have a big gear, it's more rotation to spin it, which is slower, more work. That's how a gear system works for a vehicle. So it starts with a big gear, right? So you have your main drive shaft that will come out the back, your main gear, right? And when you put it in drive, it will engage it. It will like move forward, basically, or in a way. And then now it engages, will move which will now that because it engages in the box of the transmission, which is always there's always that rod. So the main rod is always connected to that drive shaft, always. But now it changes with gears, which will increase it, right? So, or load, I guess you can say. And so now it's going to be spinning that. So now when you put it in second, now it moves at a time because that's you don't shift it too late. You don't put it to third because now you can skip gears and you can grind them. So you put it in second now, and now you're going to a little bit of a smaller gear. It could change. It could be doubled geared too. I've seen some transmission diagrams like that. So now you shift it, and you know that's why it's like if you put it in fifth, your vehicle will stall out because now you're trying to turn a much smaller gear, and that's more work. When you have the speed, you can now engage in fifth because right when you're riding a bicycle, you don't put it in fifth right off the bat. You go in first, you ride, and you slowly shift it, and now you're cruising, right? And then once you slow down, you have to go straight to first. Same as a vehicle. When you're starting to stall,
Yeah.
you put in first. So that's how a gearbox works. So that's how your car works. So
I'm actually gonna get on the NFS with all this car talk. Ugh.
So that's how your engine works. That's how your transmission works. And then your
Yeah.
axle. Your axle is a funny thing. So the drive shaft goes in. There's gears inside your axle, And if you have a diff lock, you know what diff lock is?
No.
When you have a car on a lift or something, when you spin one wheel, the other wheel will spin the opposite way. That is a normal car. That's not diff lock. That's just what normal cars have when they're driving. Diff lock engages a gear system, then it spins both those tires the same way. So when you have a diff lock system, or sometimes a solid rear end, when you spin that tire, it'll spin the other tire the same way. If your tires are spinning at the same speed when you push one tire, your gears are good. But if you spin one tire and the other tire starts spinning but really slowly, your gears could be messed up, your bearings could be messed up, things you don't want. When you have a truck and an all-wheel drive and you have a vehicle that has diff lock on both, it helps with towing. Diff lock helps to keep the grip, right? Because if you have just that simple, you can have all-wheel drive, all four wheels will spin, right? But like if you don't have a diff lock system, say you're driving or turning and your tire starts lifting, that tire could spin faster, or that tire on the side could spin slower, depending when you're turning. Diff lock, when it engages, it'll keep the constant speed, which can help towing. Because if one tire's spinning faster, one time is going slower, it'll start slowing you down because one's working more than the other. So diff lock helps towing, going up hills, off-roading, stuff like that, because that locks everything up so you can have that constant momentum without slipping. A lot of people will weld those gears or rockers in some ways so that they don't disengage randomly, because apparently that happens. I've never seen that happen, but apparently it happens. But yeah, so that's the difference. So if you ever have a car on a lift and you spin the tire, depending if it's front wheel drive or rear wheel drive, if you spin it and they go opposite ways, that car doesn't have, it could have a diff, but that means it's not engaged. But if you have a truck or car that has it and you spin it and they move the same way, it's engaged. So that's how it works. There's gears and stuff that will spin it. It's lubricated because you always have to have fluid, right? The reason an engine has oil in the bottom is to keep, because it's metal on metal, right? The crankshaft and the piston's all metal. Oil keeps it so it can actually, rotate. There's a piece in between the piston. It's like a thin plate of metal, and then the oil so it kind of free floats on both, so it doesn't actually have the proper contact, so it doesn't grind. The combustion chamber has no fluid in it besides the fuel that gets put into it. Inside the engine, there's holes inside built in for coolant, because the coolant will rust through and try to keep that combustion chamber kind of cool so it doesn't overheat. Because if it overheats, it can expand, it can ruin your pistons, stuff like that. You can have your pistons through your damn head. Then you have your exhaust, obviously, right? Because you got combustion happening and it's making smoke. So you have your exhaust that runs down, which gets rid of it, right? Your intake, obviously, you need intake because to make fire, you need three things: air, fuel, and what was the other one? Air, fuel, and how did I not remember the last one? Anyone remember the triangle of fire? It was you need air, fuel, and something to burn. No. No. How do I not remember the fire triangle? I talk so much I forget. Uh, oh, heat. You need heat. You need heat. Oxygen, fuel, and heat, which a combustion chamber has, right? You need oxygen, but there's no oxygen, right? So intake. You have your intake, which runs into your engine, which will put it in those chambers, which your intake will go in. So if you notice, your intake sits in the middle. So you have your block, and then when it's a V, you have your things go outwards, and then you have your intake in the middle going inwards to your heads, giving oxygen, which then have an exhaust on the outside to bring it outwards, right? Because that's how your vehicle runs. You need all those. And then, I mean, if you have different things, fancy stuff, you got different controls, stuff like that. But that's the basis of how your vehicle runs. Cool, huh? Seems so basic, but so complex in the same way. Everyone thinks their vehicle is your engine is just magically burning and running. If you didn't have that starter to spin that flywheel, by the way, your car would not run ever. You need that. You need it. I mean, not necessarily. If you have, I've seen people spin, they take their transmissions off and then they'll like hook up a drill or fast drill and they'll spin their flywheel fast enough, and it does work. I just recommend getting your starter. But like, if your car's running and you go to turn your starter, you hear it grind because now your flywheel's spinning faster than your starter, right? Because it only spins like a small speed, right? It's only small cranking speed. So when your vehicle's actually running, it's spinning faster than the starter can keep up. So if you do that, if you actually hold your key down where your car's running, you can break your starter because of that gear, and your flywheel if you're not careful, which is not fun to replace. Not hard, not fun. Yeah, so that's how a car works. I hope I taught you guys.
Mhm.
I thought that was pretty interesting in my opinion.
Yeah.
Also, no one's watching, but I'm building my Tesla. Look at that, no longer rusty. I bought this from the junkyard. So there's a junkyard in this game, and I paid. How much did I pay for you? I paid. I paid about almost 8 grand for this car. I have stripped everything from it. I have washed it. I've gotten rid of all the rust. I'm not gonna sell all the parts because I don't want them. Right, I got all these brand new parts and stuff. I need some money to make this car, obviously. No, this is a Tesla Roadster, the rare model of Tesla. The sport version Elon Musk made. Yeah. There's the Model 3s in this game too, which apparently still hits children, so I mean you can have it if you want, but like I don't trust that. Honestly, if you're in my opinion, if you're too lazy to drive your own car, you need self-driving, get in a taxi. It's safer. At least you can fall asleep most of the time. Well, I just don't understand. Why would you buy a car with a giant touchscreen? No offense, I could not be in a car with that big. When it's in the car, I like when it's nighttime and you have no lights on in your dashes, and it's just relaxing. Clear, dark, clear night sky, no other traffic, everything's black in your car. It's so relaxing. It feels so nice. Just your headlights across the road. It's it's peaceful. But then you have these cars that are light up like a Christmas tree. And it's like, how can you even be in this car? Like, don't get me wrong, Tesla's, like, Elon Musk seems kind of cool, but he's done a few things I'm not really happy about. One, he wanted to make self-driving semi-trucks. Big trucks, which is the worst idea you can have because those carry a lot of weight, and if that truck goes wrong, that's a lot of weight that you can hit random people. If the Model 3 isn't even done and it still hits children cardboard cutouts, I don't think it's time to make a self-driving semi-truck, which, by the way, he did. Their first test required 2 people to be in the truck, they're not touching the steering wheel, just it drives. You wanna know how the test went? Plus, if I find a link, I'll show you. It drove into the wall. I wish I could lie about that. The guy caught it. It drove in the wall and he corrected it. So I don't think it's ready to be released any time ever. Plus, everyone says, "Oh, electric is the new state of the future." No, it never will be, and I'll tell you a good reason why. Because electric vehicles, you need to charge. If it's too cold, you're gonna have effects to those batteries, which now your car won't start and run as long. Combustion will warm up, causing your engine to keep warm, help with the heaters, right? And like what? I mean, it has heaters, but like I like yeah, the batteries will freeze, yeah. Yeah. I know. I'm gonna stay away from electric vehicles, man. I don't need them. Actually, I did see one electric vehicle that it will get. And you guys can search it up. Search it up Alpha Wolf EV truck.
Hmm.
Search it up. Tell me if you and then look at it and tell me if you think that looks electric to you. Because I saw it and I drive it. It's a half-ton truck, so if electric doesn't matter to me if it's a half-ton. Doesn't really need that much. I know,
Nope, it really doesn't.
isn't it nice? I don't know who makes
Yeah.
that, but that's a nice truck. Which is not bad for an electric vehicle. Heck, the Mustang SUV Ford made, which is like I think 60,000. So like for a half ton electric truck that looks like it's old school for like 30 grand, sign me up. You know what? Sign me up. Because I drive that. That looks useful to me. It's nice. I'm not even gonna complain. I like it. I'm a big old school guy. When they made the new Bronco, I had high expectations. The new Bronco sucks. So I'm gonna say it. I'm sorry. I'm allowed judging your guys' vehicles. I work on vehicles. So screw everyone else. I'm one of the few people who can actually judge your vehicles. Oh, I got like $10 million about a vehicle. Cool. Do you know how it runs? Do you know perfections? I've seen people who know how to work on their vehicles. I'm like, yeah, but see, I don't pick favorite vehicles just because I like the look of them. I pick vehicles off safety and history. I'm a big guy with history and stuff. If there's been a lot of flaws, I might still get the vehicle, but I look into it more of when they improved. The Ford Pinto, you hit the rear end, it explodes because of how the gas was tanked or placed. Caused a lot of deaths. As you can imagine, that car didn't last too long in the manufacturing process. But yeah, just I don't know. I was like, I don't try to be a dick about people's vehicles. I get it, but it's like I work on them. I know the history, you know. If it's your vehicle and you like it, I don't care. Have whatever you want. Doesn't matter to me. I picked the Chevy off their transmission. It's probably one of the like least powerful diesels, but the Allison transmission have been great throughout history. When Oldsmobile put them into International, when they made International, and then International put them into GM trucks, because apparently most GM trucks did not have International or Allison, and then so forth, so on. Cummins has a great engine. They use it in a lot of big trucks, but have crappy transmissions apparently. Apparently you get modifications stuff like that, but I heard everyone told me Cummins engine, Allison transmission, two best combinations, and they work. They fit together, and like that is a good combination. Two of the best put together, and they can go together. Why not? Heck, sign me up. That sounds pretty cool. We own both of those trucks too, but we're not gonna take them apart and put them together. Sorry to tell you that. But I picked Chevy just off their history. Plus, they're one of the longest trucks I know. So, also, hey Ethan, I saw you. Oh, is it that time already? Is it like 10, 11? It's 11 o'clock. Oh my God.
It's
Ah,
12 here. I'm gonna have to go.
yeah, Sam. I'm gonna go to bed. Talk to you guys tomorrow.
Nice, see you, man.
See ya.
Alright, see y'all tomorrow.
See ya.